You are here, a grateful twist on life's disruptions and hardest moments. I will be sharing inspiring stories of resilience featuring women who have overcome incredible adversity. I hope you find comfort and inspiration as we learn and grow together. In this episode, I will be featuring Jamessina Hill today. You may know this story all too well. The checklist we started chasing before we even know who we really are. Jamessina lived that story, and after her fourth stress-induced emergency room visit in 2024, she realized that if she did not make a change, she would end up a wealthy old woman, alone, while those she loved enjoyed life without her. It wasn't her professional success that was the problem. It was the outdated script she had been following since she was 19. Based on her sphere of influence, a self-fulfilling prophecy, and the success list she had penned. She did something radical. She burned the success list and wrote a new one built on passion, fulfillment, and embracing her feminine power of creation. Author of Burn the Success List, National Football League alumni, College of Charleston executive MBA program mentor and senior marketing leader at a global technology consulting firm. Jamessina is on a mission to reignite passion and desire in the lives of overachieving women so they can fall back in love with the life they are creating. Hello, Jamessina. It's so great to see you. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here. So I was, thank you for that intro. I was actually born and raised in New York, and a home full of joy and love and laughter, and just always was looking at the glittery city of New York and wanted to work there so badly. I come from a long line of entrepreneurs and really had a very awesome sphere of influence, mostly men, who guided me on my journey to working in corporate America. And it was my passion for as long as I can remember. So I made that jump after undergrad, joined the NFL, and from there, just a little bit how I got to South Carolina, married a man I love, and then 15 years later, we moved to South Carolina, and here we are with two teenagers and loving the sunshine that we have here in the South, and still in corporate America, and also just launching my first book this spring. So
Nice.
thank you. Yeah,
So, I think part of your story is why you're here in South Carolina. So tell us how you ended up here.
absolutely. Decided we were done with taxes, potholes, and bad weather in New York. And we embarked on this journey of what do we want next for, we had two little ones growing up in Long Island with us, right? Our babies were little. And we decided we wanted more out of just the life experience. As New York is just wonderful, it is every time I touch down in New York, I feel like my shoulders go up in stress mode, right? It's very busy. It's a hustle and bustle lifestyle. And we just fell in love with Charleston as a smaller city, still beautiful and just so enriched with history. And we just fell in love with this area. So we found jobs and we made the move. And it has been a wonderful journey since. We've been here for 10 years now and just haven't looked back.
Nice, nice. So I know you've had some big transitions with that. Um,
Yes.
yeah, tell us about sort of
Yeah,
your big moment that turned your life on a dime.
absolutely. For the past 20 plus years, I've worked in corporate America, and this has shaped my identity. At one point, actually over the past 14 years, since my youngest was 2, I've experienced 5 emergency room visits. And that didn't it didn't make sense until a couple of years ago, where I realized that these events, we'll call them, that led me into the ER, both in New York and here in the South, were stress induced. And it was my wake up call that it was my own doing, that this was the fight or flight response of my body experiencing burnout and stress, and these stress-induced events had to stop. And I realized that if I do not heal my body, heal my spirit, heal the way in which I operate within my family, which is a loving, beautiful family, but I'm always so high strung, and this stress, if I didn't stop it, it would end up consuming me. Um, that was a very big wake up call that my body had to resort to these stress induced events, this anxiety, to make me realize it. And I also realized that so many of my girlfriends and my peers who have positions like my own are experiencing the same thing, and something had to give, something had to stop. So I ended up writing this very cathartic memoir, and which is this first book that I'm launching in spring here in 2025, called Burn the Success List. And this really changed my perspective. It's been about a year that I've been thinking about this book and writing this book. And over this past year, learned so much about myself, about how we as high performing, overachieving women hold on to this identity in corporate America, and how if we do not make a change, we may end up wealthy and alone and successful, while the people we love are enjoying this life without us.
Yeah. Yeah. That's profound. So, tell me about these stress-induced events.
Yeah. The first one, and it's funny, this first one was when my daughter was 2.
Mm.
And I had limited myself purposefully to a vegan diet, to working out 4 or 5 days a week on my lunch hour. I was working in a nonprofit at the time, had my 2 children. I was, running the marketing and communications team at this nonprofit in New York, and was always going. I would come home, I would put the baby to bed, put my son to bed, kiss my husband goodnight, and I'd go out and be doing more events, right, for this job. I was always working. And this stress induced event, this first one, I went to bed. I woke up to hear my daughter, she'd woken up with a fever, ran upstairs, grabbed her, ran downstairs, set her on the counter, and I felt like I was about to short circuit. And I looked her in the eye and I said, "Don't move." And I fainted. And my husband found me on the floor. Moments later, he heard the commotion, and I was rushed in an emergency room, stitches to the chin. And when I had gotten home, my husband, my family, my boss at my job said, "You need to do less. You need to be, more calm. You're doing too much. You're limiting yourself too much." And I thought that it was all the outside stresses that I was putting on myself, working out too much and choosing a different healthy lifestyle, and also selling real estate on the side, just always going, when really it was my self-induced event based on this identity that I was embracing, that I had to achieve continuously. I had to constantly be achieving more for myself and my family. And that constant mode of doing and the expectation that I put on myself was what had created this stress induced event. And it is also, as I look back last year when I started to really pinpoint all these moments in my life, the 5 ER visits, they all came at a time when I was extremely busy at work and just burning the candle on both ends, when I was not caring for myself, but filling my plate so that I felt accomplished. And that busyness, that constant need to perform, is the culprit.
And where do you think that we as women get that constant need to perform, need to keep our schedules packed? Do you think that's a new thing in society? Do you think that's the way it's always been on some level?
I actually think it's always been this way for those of us. Well, for all women, yes, I think we do so much. We are the CEO of the home. We are the CEO of ourselves. We often have, for those of us who are mothers, we've got our family, we've got our work. And I can only speak to my experience, of course, but being in corporate America for 20 years, I never saw it because the women who were in the positions that I wanted to achieve and attain, they weren't talking about this. And I don't blame them for not sharing this information. I'm sharing it now. I'm relaying it to anyone that wants to listen and is curious about it, especially women at College Charleston, which I mentor for their MBA program, which we can get into a little bit later. But I don't think that it was spoken about. And also, I worked for men all of my career. There was two women that I worked for, and I was never promoted by them, and I wasn't given um, a raise by either of those two women. But for the 7 or 8 men that I worked for, my income had always increased. My position, my role always increased, and I was involved in everything that we were doing. And again, I don't fault the women that I was working for not providing those salary increases or those other opportunities. They were fending for themselves. And I realize that now, right? They didn't have these forums. It wasn't spoken about 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Those two women were working to have everything the same way we were, but the men just held my hand and pulled me along. So I think that, yes, we are all so, so busy and we are doing all the things because that's what we do. We hold everyone. If we are a tree, we hold everyone in our branches and we hold everything in our branches. It is our nature to do and to mother, whether or not we are mothers. We embrace this ability to hold it all, to carry it all, to do it all. I think it's innate in us biologically, but it's something that we have to step back and look at and realize what of all the things that we carry and we hold and we do and we accomplish, which are truly bringing us joy and desire, or meeting what we desire, meeting our passions, and giving us the joy that we need to thrive and to love and to be passionate, successful women. And I think that that busyness, and especially for those of us who were raised by men in corporate America, there's no way that I think they could have ever understood all that we carry. And it's not a dig on the men that brought us to this point.
Yeah.
Rather, it's an understanding and an awakening. I think that's been happening over the past for centuries, right? But it's a bit louder of late.
Yeah. Yeah. The awakening is definitely getting louder. And I think that you're right. We are innately nurturers. And as we have changed our roles in society over time, whatever extended period of time that's been, we've become the heavy lifters because we don't just carry the household, right? We're not just the CEO of the household. We are also trying to work full-time jobs. We're trying to, keep everybody happy, trying to, make sure that we're taken care of too, which often is last on the list.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're absolutely right about that. But what I think I've seen shifting, and maybe it's just because it's shifting because I've gotten older and the people around me were starting to talk about this, but I even think that younger generations are glad we're talking about it. I remember recently, this is going to sound crazy, but I'm a little crazy. I was in a bathroom at an event. And this woman and I that knew each other were chatting, and I just started, she's like, "What's going on with you?" And I was like, "I'm not sleeping because of menopause." And this other woman that I knew came out, and she's younger and not there yet. And she's like, "I'm so glad you guys are talking about this." And she just hung out and like listened to us have this conversation. And she's like, more conversations need to happen like this.
Yeah.
Because I think for a long time, there were so few women role models, right? So few women in the upper levels of corporate America. And so how they are just sort of trying to stay there, keep their position. They don't have anybody to model their behavior after, right? Except men.
Right. Right.
And so I do feel like that as more women have risen into their own, that there's more support and more conversations than are happening before in a very male dominated situation. You're not going to sit around and complain about
Right.
Men are going to
hot
be like,
flashes or
God,
whatever.
yeah,
Right.
it's her time of the month. You don't want people judging you for, whatever you're personally going through. And so you kind of hold it a little closer to the cuff. But we also came from, I did anyway. I think I'm a little older than you. Girls could be mean to each other. I think there's sort of pockets of mean girls that we come up against. And so for a long time, I felt like my girl friendships it's like, are we competing? Like, what's happening? Now I don't feel that anymore. The women I see, everybody is so supportive of each other, willing to talk, help however they can. Talking about opportunities that might, fit your needs or whatever. And so I think culturally, internally with women, things are beginning to kind of turn around and people are being more open about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When we allow ourselves, we are so comfortable in a circle of women, right? It is a camaraderie. There is a connection that only we can understand. And to your point prior, women are talking about it and the younger generation wants to listen. I have been for the past 7 or 8 years executive mentor at the College Charleston MBA program. This program is phenomenal. It's a 1-year executive MBA. And over the past 6 years, they've had a Women of Impact program. And this is bringing all of the women who are part of the Executive MBA, it's 1 year, that they come together and there are separate sessions that are led by corporate women like myself who can come and share about just our roles in general in the workplace and advancement, and also be what it is like to be a woman at work, which is still such an important topic to talk about. And when I lead our session, I actually lead one called Own Your Power. I talk to the group, usually about 20 to 25 women in the Executive MBA program, and it ranges from those who are just out of undergrad, who are 21 years old, all the way up to those in their 30s and 40s, right, who are coming back to gain higher education. And we talk about biologically, as women, we are built to create. Whether or not we choose to create life, we are built to create. We are natural creators and connectors. And being in a room, one to many, with these executive MBA students, we talk through what that means in business and in life and how to embrace this and lead with this beautiful feminine power that we behold. And that goes across the gender aisle. Being able to operate in a powerful feminine way with our male counterparts, also with our female counterparts at work and in life. And leading with this creation, this ability to create, which is create relationships, create ideas, create companies, create revenue, all of it together, and then being able to also enjoy it and move forward based on what we desire out of life while embracing our sisterhood has been some of the most eye-opening conversations. And I am finding, especially over the past 8 years, the group gets bigger and bigger of those women who are part of the MBA cohort. And also the richness of the conversations that these women are understanding how to have their own power and presence in the workforce and not be held back by quote unquote imposter syndrome, um, and how to operate at work, at home, and comfortably in their own bodies out in the world. It's being talked about. And like you said, it's not, there's no, I'm not saying no, but there's not a sense of competition between the women in the room. They are finding ways to support and embrace one another in the workforce, in their education program, and I'm seeing it at work as well. Over the past 3 technology companies that I've worked for, women around the globe, all 3 have been global, and we talk about how globally we are embracing the need and the ability to connect with one another to check in and see how you are excelling in your own role. How are our clients, our feminine CIOs, CTOs, CEOs, how are they excelling, embracing, and bringing others along with them? It is a very powerful movement, and it's happening on the sidelines at work every day. And it's a beautiful thing. And I love seeing that our next generation is embracing this and talking about it openly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's nice. Nice to hear. Yeah, I feel that way. I feel that way about some of the groups that I move in is people check in on each other.
Yeah,
You know, how you doing? Are you okay? You know, what do you need? And so it's nice when yeah, you have a group of women around you that are it feels supportive. It feels like you have somebody you can go to.
absolutely.
Yeah. I just recently, I think yesterday actually posted something. I cannot remember the actress's name, even though I read the book that she wrote. But she talked about on this reel, and I know it's crazy to talk about a social media reel, but she was talking about how she's teaching her daughter that she needs to be the love of her own life. And she spoke about that on the reel, and I just thought and that's been the thing that's been resonating in my head the last couple years as I've been going through some transitions myself is I need to be in a love affair with myself and my own life, right? And it's like it's not about pleasing someone else. It's not about, expecting someone else to come along and fix it for me or, heal it for me. It's like I have to be the person for myself,
Yeah.
that gives me the things that I need. Because we come into this world alone, we go out of this world alone. And, at the end of the day, we're the only one that's going to show up and get the work done. We cannot necessarily expect someone to come in, and rescue us from ourselves. And so, yeah, that just sort of rang true to me. But it is nice when we have sort of this community of people. And I think it's growing. And I think more things are being talked about, which is why I'm excited about having this podcast. So conversations like this can get out to, broader audience, hopefully, and yeah, help other women navigate these spaces that when they get there, when they get in those moments. We're going to take a quick break for our sponsor today, Tanya Boggs Photography. We are taking You Are Here on the road. I'm excited to talk to you guys about You Are Here, the portrait experience, where your story meets the lens, the mic, and the moment. This is a co-creative experience that honors your truth in all its forms through portraits, conversation, and collective reflection, because being seen is just the beginning. What follows is a legacy. As I spend June and July in Southern California and August in the Northeast, I am going to be meeting up and taking the podcast on the road. So I am looking for people for this portrait experience. We want to be seen, not just looked at. Maybe life cracked something open. Loss, illness, divorce, aging, a quiet knowing. And now you're standing there after that shift wondering, how do I want to show up now? Who am I becoming? You're not trying to perform or prove. You're ready to make a statement. Still, wanting to be seen isn't selfish. It's sacred. I believe portraits can be a form of emotional archaeology, uncovering the layers of who you are now, not just who you were before everything changed. You don't have to justify your desire for portraits that tell the truth, and you're not too late. You're right on time. Our work together will be designed to meet you in this chapter and to mark it with portraits that reflect your strength and softness on your terms, with images that feel like you without explanation, with a process that doesn't force a version of yourself, but allows you space to reveal one. This portrait session isn't just about capturing beautiful photos, though you'll have those too. This experience centers on creating something lasting, a visual anchor of your transformation, a message to everyone, and an ode to what you've reclaimed. I'm Tanya Boggs, photographer, witness, co-creator of Audacious Freedom. I don't know exactly where you are right now, but I know this. You are here, and that's not a small thing. I also understand what it's like to feel uncertain, vulnerable, or unseen after a major life shift, and to desire a creative partner as you show up for yourself in that space. That's why I created You Are Here, the portrait experience, to provide a formal invitation so many women crave, to be seen without pressure, and to create something honest in a moment that's anything but ordinary. After more than 25 years in the photography world, I can tell you that this work is about more than lighting and lenses. It's about witnessing. Here's how we'll do that. A deeply personal portrait session that honors where you are now. Not who you were, but who you're becoming. The opportunity for your portrait to be part of a thoughtful gallery exhibition, turning your story into a shared experience that inspires and connects with others. And this will be a chance for you to join the podcast conversation with me, giving voice to your journey and helping others feel less alone as you tell your story. Your transformation is a story worth witnessing. Your visibility is an act of power. Your self-worth, belonging, and right to take up space are non-negotiable. I hope you'll book a consultation. With love, Tanya. So what do you think was your biggest lesson, I guess, that you got? I mean, you already kind of talked about it, but what would you said you had multiple episodes. So
Yeah,
can you talk about that journey, like how that
sure.
began to add up? I assume maybe the first one, I don't know.
Yeah,
Did you kind of toss it off like, okay, it's just a one-time event, and then you started like, wait, there's a something unfolding here. Yeah.
absolutely. The first one felt like I was, okay, I'm burning the candle on both ends. I'm busy. I'm limiting myself with my food and so many workouts and trying to do too much and putting too much on my plate, right? And as the years went by and we made a lifestyle change, we moved to Charleston, South Carolina from New York. Um, we found ourselves working remotely, so we were able to get the babies off the bus, for example. There were so many beautiful lifestyle changes. However, fast forward to a year ago, where again, I had quote unquote limited myself. I chose to be sober for 17 months. And I was again working ferociously at my job, traveling twice a month for business, and also taking on a board seat at a nonprofit, adding to all the things I love to do. So doing a lot, quote unquote. But here I was, sober, had achieved a title that I wanted to achieve. This is January of 2024. And I had my friends around a dinner table, and there I was having the best day, the best evening. It was light, it was airy, I was laughing, and my heart felt like it was about to burst, and not in a good way. I felt as though I was having a heart attack. That was the last event that I've had. And hopefully it will be the last in my lifetime. I was rushed to the emergency room by my mother. The last time I had drove myself. This time my mother was at that dinner table with 9 other wonderful humans who I adore. And everything came back perfect. Blood work perfect. Um, my heart was perfect. My body was in great shape. My mind was in great shape. But I was sent home with, you need to rest. This was the biggest eye opener. This was the major shift. And I realized the lesson was that I created a list when I was 19 that was, again, get the degree, get the job, find the guy, get married, buy the house, have the babies, get the promotion, go on the vacation, this constant movement of a list. And I realized that winter, that January, February, where I had that last event in 2024, it was time to burn the success list, burn it to the ground, and allow not this phoenix rising symbol, but allow the embers and the ash to be fertile ground for this next phase of my life. We have operated perhaps with a checklist for far too long, and we keep putting these achievements and accomplishments in this imaginary personal trophy room. We rack them up, but these accomplishments are wonderful for um, perhaps our movement within corporate America and our advancement. We are not focusing on this next phase of our life. And have we, for those of us who are so operating in this momentum to achieve and to check the boxes, it feels so computer like, right? We really need to burn it to the ground and focus on who we are today. What is our truest identity when we look in the mirror? What do we desire? What are we passionate about? And it's time to look back and create a new list. And this list is more so realizing what are the most passionate, powerful moments in our life that we've had, maybe 20, 30, 10, 20, 30 years past writing that original list, and not reinventing ourselves, but realigning with what we want now. And I will tell you, when I wrote my new list, quote unquote, wrote it or think it or have it penned in pencil on paper or in my notes app, it does not include the salary band anymore. It does not include the potential law degree that I've always wanted to pursue. Those are off the list. And what I found on this new passion and desire driven list, it's more about how I want to feel on a day-to-day basis or within my life. And it's a list that I'm okay if it's fluid and that things will fall off and that things will come back. It's so much more passionate. And I actually have a practice now of, in my meditation or even in a quick moment in the day where I find myself doing and being busy, having a reset and refocusing, even if it's 30 seconds, on what is the most important thing I can do for myself right now. Oftentimes it's just breathing or hydrating or realigning with what is the most important thing to accomplish that day and separating work and life, because I don't believe in work-life balance. I don't think it exists, especially in this remote world that we live in, but ensuring that my passions and desires are filled every day. And that is something that I did not focus on for the past 20 years. And I would like that to be something that I ensure that those I speak to at the College of Charleston, men and women that I speak to as part of that program, those who pick up my book, my own babies, and my husband and I, we focus on that, because that is how we allow ourselves to find real joy, to treat our bodies as the temples that we need to, and treat our minds with love. Because being busy and this identity of overachieving, it needs to be discarded and focus on what's going to bring us the most joy and passion. And that's my big revelation over the past year. And there's lots of little practices, I think, that I've embodied to ensure that I do so. This didn't come about easily. It took these stress-induced events for me to realize that I'm literally cracking in two. And we have to unearth that next phase of our life, and the season that we're in now as women.
Yeah. So, will you share with us some of these practices that you're implementing into your life?
Absolutely. First and foremost, I do believe that we need to identify our hobbies and our passions. I was sitting in a business meeting in Toronto with a new company that I started at, and I was with, of course, multiple men, and each of them were talking about the things that they were partaking in multiple times a week. And some were learning how to play rugby. They were coaching rugby. Others were windsurfing or kite surfing. Others were sailing. And they were doing this 2 or 3 days a week. I mean, I was just so engrossed in their conversation. And they turned to me as the newest hire and said, Messina, what are your hobbies? And I just sat there and I don't know. I could not pinpoint anything fun that I do for myself because I didn't identify them as hobbies, right? Whereas these men were spending hours, several days a week, pursuing things that light them up. I came home from this trip and realized even my own husband, he has the most incredible hobbies. He will turn off the computer once a day and go riff it on the guitar, right? He'll sing his heart out and play his music and then get back to work. And or he'll go play pickleball. He has things he's doing. And I realized, wow, I am just working. Now, am I really? No. I have things that I love to do, but I never looked at them as hobbies. I never identified as someone outside of my work role, right? I think of myself as a mother and then my marketing leader. And getting rid of that, shedding that, and focusing on what I love to do in my spare time, where you said it, putting ourselves first, being madly in love with ourselves. I realized it wasn't very interesting to those men when I said, I don't know. I have gone back and told them, hey guys, I have hobbies. I want to learn. rephrase what they are, and they laugh, right? Because they know that my book is coming out and I've been writing about this. But I have deeply focused on ensuring that several times a week I am involved in things that move my body and take me away from my desk and away from my home and away from this identity that I've had for so long. I love tennis. I love hiking. I love writing and reading and my hands in the earth. That was the biggest change that I've made. And I implore that everyone please go find what you love and do it several times a week. And it could be reading poetry, writing poetry. It could be thrifting. It could be gardening, whatever, day trading. What is it that you love that's outside of your day job and outside of your role as a wife, a mother, a woman, whatever it may be that your roles are? Go find something that you love and do it for yourself several times a week. And that is the first most important step that I found I had to do was to give back to myself.
Yeah.
And that's just brought me so much joy. I mean, moving my body, having my mind work again outside of my work role has been just the most beautiful thing to embrace. And then I would say the second thing that is most important is to have a mindset shift. And we hear it all the time and we laugh about it, but speaking to yourself in a way that is loving and empowering, it really works. If any one of you or your listeners have watched Jerry Maguire, it opens up with that CEO and he says, I love my life, I love my wife, and today is going to be a great day. Now, I say that every single morning to myself when I wake up. Yes, I say, I love my life, I love my wife, today is going to be a great day. But this simple, repetitive, funny thing, this phrase, it just starts your day with that mindset shift. It immediately makes you laugh and it feels frivolous, which I know for strong willed corporate women, feeling frivolous is very uncomfortable. It is not part of our operating system. Being silly doesn't ever work for me. I actually don't love it, but that sense of play shifts us for a moment, makes us a little uncomfortable, and I think always starts me off in the right way, in some opposite narrative, right? So those two things are really important.
I think those are really, yes, I think you hit it right on the head. I love that. Because yes, I went through something similar a few years ago and I was like, why am I just sitting around my house? And I finally was like, I'm gonna, I had thought about going and taking salsa lessons. And so I started going salsa dancing and I do it a couple times a week. Not always, but when I can. And I love surfing. I've loved that for a long time. So I'm so glad that you found the things that you go and get after because, yeah, they're so important. They're so important. And we often overlook that. And I think
Yes.
when I was younger, I was always last on the list, the family, the daughter, the husband, everything else came before I did. And so, yeah, I think that's beautiful. And the way we talk to ourselves, that is been a big lesson for me. Because I have those negative, those voices that talk to you and try to tear you down. And, even when I talk about, I say something negative about my body, I have a friend who would say, don't talk about my friend like that. And the said it, I remember thinking, I'm not talking about anybody badly, I was thinking, don't
Yes.
talk about my friend like that. She thought I was talking about someone else. And then it hit me, oh, wait, I'm her friend and I'm talking poorly about myself. And I was like, it just hit me between the eyes. And so I've used that a lot now when people do that. And I also have learned how to self-correct that talk, right? It's like, why are you focused on something that fundamentally doesn't really matter? Like, are
Right.
you happy? Are you healthy? Are you getting after it? Are you moving your body? Yeah, I think all those things and turning that, whatever your phrase is. Mine is like it's a great day to be alive. I have a girlfriend and I we giggle about that sometimes because I think I just said it out loud once and she's like, I love that. It is a great day to be alive. So every time we see each other, she's like, it's a great day to be alive. I'm like, yep.
So
Um,
important.
yeah, so those are really great great practices. I love that. What else did I want to ask you? Is there anything that somebody said to you or any advice someone gave you that helped out during some of that stuff?
Absolutely. I've had an executive coach for 9 years, and this is something I absolutely recommend. Having someone who is not necessarily a therapist, but especially for those of us who are working women who have multifaceted roles. An executive coach puts you in a position to unpack so much of your life, not just on the business side, but how does your personal life impact your business life? And she said to me, and she was the one who said, you are simply an actor. You are the star actor in your life. And guess what? You have wings, the wait, not these wings, wings on a stage where you have so many other actors waiting to be brought in. She said, who are these other actors, these other personas that you have every day? And she goes, and who do we want to focus on? Who do we want to further develop as they come and hit center stage? And she said, let's give them a name. So we did this exercise together where there's a proverbial mirror. And when you're looking in the mirror, who do you see? Who is your best self in that mirror? And I explained to her, with my eyes closed, I looked in this proverbial mirror and saw the best version of myself. It was using all of our senses that you could, and your sense of sight, hearing, smell, taste. Where was she? What location was she in? And it was who I wanted to be and be seen as. And when I came out of that mini session, few minutes of embracing this identity of my best version, she said, let's give her a name. She asked me what I saw, and then she said, let's give her a name. And I ended up creating this identity, the maternal earth goddess. And I saw her as, I gave her a name. I spoke about who she was and how could I embrace this identity and be this identity whenever I needed. And it could be in a boardroom, it could be at the kitchen table, it could be when I'm out and about in the world at any given time. And how she operates in the real world, again, no matter what stage she's on, being able to embrace and embody that maternal earth goddess has been such an incredible lesson and idea that I have brought this to others, my girlfriends who are in similar situations that I've been in. And we talk about, well, which actor are you bringing into the stage right now? Who is she? What's her goal? And what is the best version of her as she enters this threshold or this conversation or tomorrow's flight, whatever it may be. And that to me has been just a game changer. It's so out of the norm than what we've heard to do, but it is about puffing yourself back up, but embracing who you feel most comfortable and confident as. And so I would say that is one of the most powerful techniques that someone has shared with me. And I embrace whichever actor I want to bring from the wings. And oftentimes, even in a boardroom, even in a big meeting, sometimes it is that maternal earth goddess needs to come to the table and just bring this warmth of femininity and power. And I find that it works best for me.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. I love that exercise. I'm gonna have to do that for myself.
It's eye-opening. It's
Yeah.
eye-opening.
Yeah, I bet it is. Yeah. And I think the power of visualization can be a game changer. So I think it's got a lot of nice meat to it for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I love this idea of burning the success list. I remember when I was I usually have my pre-big birthday breakdown a year or two before the big birthday. And
Yeah.
so, in my 20s, I had a baby at 26. And so when I was 28 and I had not finished my college degree yet,
Mm.
and I remember I was 28 years old, I was about to be 30, and I was like, oh my God, I just broke down. I was crying. I was like, everything is wrong. And I was like, I thought when I was by the time I was 30, I would be married and I would have a career and I would, have all these things. And I was like, after having my breakdown, I'm like, how old was I when I made that list? And I remember thinking, I was a teenager.
Right.
Like, you got 2 years. What are you going to turn around? What are you going to shore up? What are you going to fix? Like, don't sit here and like, have the pity party and now pick yourself up, dust yourself off. You know what comes next. And so, yeah, those lists, I think a lot of people are going to identify with this idea that they've made this list when they were so young. And no matter when you stumble over your discovery of that, young girl's list, you're going to have to reconcile it. So you have this burning the success list. When does that come out?
So Burn the Success List, a love letter to overachieving corporate women. It will launch end of March. I am so thrilled. It'll be spring of 2025, and I can't wait to put it out into the world. Part of this book is, yes, burning that list, but also acknowledging that you've done it. You've done it. You are who you are because of your sphere of influence, your self-fulfilling prophecy, and this success list. But now it's time to acknowledge that and then embrace who you are today without the confines of this identity. So it's launching in the spring. I am so excited to have it out in the world and to hear others' thoughts and takes on their own journey, whether similar or different than mine.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to read it. And we'll have everything everybody needs to know in the show notes that will be listed below this podcast, so they will know where to find it. And let me see. Do you want to read a little excerpt before we jump off the call? Are you prepared for that?
I'd love to read something. I have an excerpt from part of the book. It's called A Moment. I tend to crave silence this past year. A quiet house, a made bed, and tea on the porch at 5:30 a.m. I want deep stretches and lemon water over late nights and champagne. I want less work hours and more focus on a few fruitful endeavors that will yield results faster or compound over time. I want to know what I want and spend my precious time in pursuit of that. At the moment, I'm too hardened at home. I'm irritable and not the fun, breathless girl I was 20 years ago. I'm thinking about insurance and investments and car payments and college and watering the lawn and getting around to writing my book. What podcast will inspire me, how to create passive income, etc. I feel distant, perhaps disengaged, and not very authentic. My authentic self has been hard to catch. I think I pissed her off when I started trying to fit the mold of what a CEO is asking for, rather than giving the eye of the tiger and amplifying my voice because I didn't agree or had questions about the strategy. My authentic self isn't in hiding. She isn't gone. She's just scowling in a corner with her arms folded and big hair and bright eyes, waiting to be invited back. Waiting for that sliver of a chance to jump back into our spirit and take charge. She knows how to operate at peak. She just flows. She was once both a Peter Pan and a Tinkerbell, guided by the thrill and selfishness of youth, pursuing her every whim with a boastful and carefree attitude, alongside the idea that what we believe in must exist. Goodness, I miss her. And when I realized she was gone, I knew I needed to make every effort to welcome her back. However, enticing her to saunter back in takes the courage to evolve. Even the hardened rock will evolve in nature over time due to elemental factors such as heat, pressure, weathering, or erosion, essentially changing its composition. Accept the elemental and biological toll on our body, our mind, and our spirit. Accept that our composition has changed. Accept that once we believed in exists because we made it so, but it's time for a new thrill.
Well said. Well said. Well written. You are a beautiful writer.
Thank you.
I can't wait to read it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you and talking to you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and I can't wait to hear the rest of your podcast interviews.
Yeah. Well, tell us how people can find you really quickly.
Absolutely. Burnthesuccesslist.com is where you can learn more about the book launch. And on Instagram, it's at I am Jamessina. And I'm on LinkedIn as well at Jamessina Hilly.
And I'll put those links below so people can get to them easily. And well, that's it. I'm so glad you are here.